I made several bird cages during my career as a studio potter. The inspiration for the first one came after a visit to the Metropolitan Museum in New York, where I saw a similar one to this one, and when I returned home I was determined to make one. This is the first cage that I made at the Mossman studio in 1975. I had to work out how to construct the cage, and I came up with the following solution. Parts of the cage could be thrown on the wheel, and other parts had to be handmade and then slip cast for multiple reproduction. The wheel thrown components. The dome, the base plate, and the base of the cage. The dome is thrown on the wheel this way up, and the profile as shown here must be accurately achieved with special reference to the measurements from A to B. Once leather hard, the dome is turned this way up, and the top is turned off flat for the cat and the plate. This shows how the dome eventually sits on the top of the top ring. The base is thrown on the wheel this way or upside down. Measurements are important. This is the profile that has to be achieved with the measurements there, and this shows the profile of the base the right way up. And also don't forget to make the holes for the supporting rods at leather hard stage. The base sits on a flat plate, and the plate is thrown on the wheel. And now for the slip cast components of the cage. They are the cat, the top panels, the columns, the rings, the feeder bowls, and the balusters. And now for the cat and the plate. The cat can either be made by hand, then molded and cast, or simply sculptured. And the plate can also be thrown on the wheel. The columns. Figure A shows the top 6 columns, and figure B shows the 12 lower columns. They are handmade, molded, and then slip cast to achieve the required numbers. Because the columns are slip cast, they have a hole through them through which the reinforcing rods can pass. The rings. Each ring of the measurements shown are first thrown on the wheel, then molds are made, and the rings are then slip cast so that 2 of each can be accurately produced. Holes for the wires and the supporting rods must be made at leather hard. The top panels. There are 6 of these. They are first hand built so that they fit neatly between the top columns. Then they are molded and slip cast. Once again, with the balusters, you hand build them, make your molds, and then cast them so that you have 6 of type A and 24 of type B. The feeder bowls and covers, well, these can either be molded and reproduced that way or simply wheel thrown. And don't forget, once again, put the holes through them for the wires at leather hard. The technical requirements are white earthenware clay for throwing and white earthenware slip clay for casting. The bisque firing temperature is 980 and the glaze firing temperature 1100. If you are doing a blue and white decorated design, the pieces will be glazed in white opaque glaze, and cobalt blue is used for the decoration. Incidentally, the measurements given before will allow for a 6 to 8% clay shrinkage. After all the parts have been made, they are bisque fired, decoration and glazing comes next, and then they are glaze fired. Assembling your birdcage. You will need 6 4mm bronze brazing rods threaded at both ends with nuts and washers, 42 pieces of 2mm bronze brazing rods for the wires, and some flat brass sheet for the door. During the assembly process, A slow set ceramic adhesive is applied between all the joints, columns and rings. Stage 1. Thread the 6 supporting rods and set them into the base. Attach washers and nuts under the base. Place the supporting balusters over the rods and then the first ring. Put the first row of 6 columns over the supporting rods and then put the second ring over the rods. Put the second row of 6 columns over the supporting rods and the third ring over the rods. Put the third row of columns over the supporting rods, then the fourth ring over the top, and secure everything with washers and nuts. Now the balusters can be glued into place, and also the top panels fitted into their position. Cut the wires to measure about 1 centimetre longer than the distance they span. Insert all the wires upwards from the second ring, push them into the top holes, then drop them into the bottom ring. The cage will now look like this. Then the dome is added. It is fastened securely with a reliable ceramic adhesive, and the cat and the plate are also fixed to the top of the cage at this stage. Now, finally, a door for the cage has to be made. This diagram illustrates how the door is constructed. 2 pieces of flat brass plate are soldered top and bottom of the place selected for the door, and the intervening wires removed. The door is made out of the same wire. It is fastened by making rings and attaching it to one of the upright wires, as you see here. And here are the details of how to make the catch. The catch is made as you see in this diagram. 2 lugs are soldered to the side of the door, and the catch slides down over these lugs to keep the door closed. And now your cage is complete. Here are some other cages made by me over the years. And in my next video I will attempt to show you how to make this rather large bird cage. Good luck everybody.